beyond this point will result in the arrest, prosecution, and possible application of force. Advertencia. Esta es una área restringida federal, fuera de los límites de personal no autorizado. La entrada o el movimiento no autorizado más allá de este punto dará lugar a la detención, al procesamiento y la aplicación posible de la fuerza. Personnel. Unauthorized entry or movement beyond this point will result in the arrest.
We're going to take a lot of hate. We're going to be sued every day, numerous times. I think you'll see the left try to control the media. They're going to show the first crying female, first crying child, and say how inhumane we are. But they won't talk about 340,000 children that they failed to take care of. They're not going to talk about the young women who have been murdered in this country at the hands of criminal cartels. They're not going to talk about the hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children. You want to talk about family separation? They buried their children because their children were killed by a member of the...
A state of emergency is officially now in effect on the border. Does it feel like an emergency where you are standing?
Feels no different than 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago or an hour ago when we got here early this morning, Rachel. The one practical change that we do know that has gone into effect here is that CBP One app that was put into place by the Biden administration, part of their effort, stated effort to have a more fair, safe, humane, orderly process at the border, has been discontinued by the Trump administration and President Trump. I have to say I've reported from this spot over the course of 4 different presidential administrations for NBC News and MSNBC. In the Obama administration,
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about President Trump's first day, okay? And on the first day, I guess I can describe Trump and the things that he's done so far as him showing the world that he is dead serious about some of the promises that he made, okay, on the campaign trail. The main promise, the focus of his agenda, okay, seems to be the border, because Trump has announced a slew of executive orders designed to close the border and to help facilitate the mass deportation operation, okay, something we talked about before, because you already have illegal immigrants who are leaving the country in fear, in panic over Trump coming into office and executing on the mass deportations. Okay, so we've already talked about that. That was happening before he got in office. Now that he's in office, okay, and he's signing these executive orders that we're going to go over because we want to know exactly what's happening, right? I'm going to educate you guys here, okay, in this video. Now you have migrants who were trying to get into the country, hoping that they get into the country. Now they're boohoo, whining and crying in Mexico on the other side of the wall. And this is the type of imagery that the liberal media, this is what they want the masses to see to push back against Trump. This type of propaganda they want out there.
They'll tell one side of the story, they'll try to vilify us, but they're not going to stop us doing our job. I don't care what the media says about me. If they saw what I saw in 34 years, saw the tragedies I've dealt with in 34 years, they would certainly understand me. They may not still like me, but there's a reason why we do what we do. I'm tired of women being raped, making that journey. I'm tired of dead children. I'm tired of women and children being sex trafficked. On this administration, sex trafficking is up 600% of women and children. We have a record number of people on terrorist watch lists being arrested. Historic record, 3,500% increase. Record number of Americans dying of fentanyl. We got a record number of cartel members have entered this country. You know, the criminal cartels in Mexico making more money than they've ever made in smuggling aliens, trafficking in women and children, and moving dope. So, hate all you want. Push the misinformation out all you want. We're not going to slow down. We're not going to go away. We're going to get this done.
Yeah, so you see, now you hear that, okay? I 100% agree with Tom Homan in the sense that, yeah, a lot of this is going to be propaganda to help fearmonger, that Trump is doing something inhumane and that this ain't right and yada, 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 right? They want to pull at your heartstrings. That's what they want to do. But also, I think this is a double-edged sword, okay? And I don't think this is going to work out the way the media thinks it's going to work out, because ultimately, at the end of the day, I agree with the media. I think that we should see this type of imagery, okay? That's the exact type of imagery that is going to prevent people from making the journey to the border in the first place, okay? Because me personally, hey, this is exactly what I signed up for, and I knew that this is what we were going to see. Now, I don't take any enjoyment in seeing people's pain and suffering, but for me personally, I'm not changing my opinion, right? I'm sorry. We can't let everybody in, okay? And am I supposed to feel bad for everybody that's boohoo whining, crying about not being able to get into the country? No, because if that's the case, I'll be boohoo whining, crying all my life, right? I mean, am I supposed to feel bad for this woman when I know that this is happening every single day, or that this will be happening a lot more, right? There's a lot of people who are not fortunate enough to be able to live in the United States of America. And that's just reality, right? We got to deal with it. And I'm personally just not going to let it change my opinion, right? So it's not going to work on me. And I hope that a vast majority of the country who agrees with mass deportations reacts the same way, just like me. Well, it's sad to see, but it is what it is, right? That is the way that people should react when they see that, okay? Because the media wants you to react emotionally and say, no, let's just let him in. Let's just let him in. And you end up with the situation that we had over the last 4 years. Can't have it, okay? But when you do see somebody that is boohoo whining and crying like that at the border, and you're thinking about coming to the border, yeah, I think that type of imagery will make them think twice before coming over, right? Making that long journey just to end up heartbroken, okay? And I've made this argument before, and I will continue to make it. We got to see the raids, right? Yes, we need to see the raids. I want to see the raids, right? And the reason why is because it needs to be televised, right? People need to see this is what's going to happen if you come over to this country, right? This is your fate, okay? This is the end result. It needs to be seen, okay? It needs to be seen around the world. Because we have to send a message that, hey, no, it's not okay to try to come into this country illegally, right? That's how you prevent them from coming in the first place, okay? That's how this works. So, again, Trump has announced a slew of day one executive orders that we got to talk about. Take a look.
Declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, so I think it's important that we actually go through the 10 executive orders that Trump is doing so everybody understands exactly what's going on here, right? We're informed about what's happening. The number one is to declare a national emergency at the border. This will allow U.S. Armed Forces to finish the border wall and allow the Secretary of Defense to deploy members of the Armed Forces and National Guard to the border. Basically, Trump is doing what he promised in regards to using the military to secure the border, right? He's going to clarify the military's role in border security. This action directs the military to prioritize our borders and protect territorial integrity by repelling forms of invasion, including unlawful mass migration, narcotics trafficking, human smuggling, and trafficking, and other criminal activities. In catch and release, continue building the wall, and reinstate remain in Mexico. It definitely shouldn't say end. He's definitely reinstating remain in Mexico. Okay, this is a typo from NPR. Designate criminal cartels as terrorists. This will allow the U.S. to more easily remove members of groups like Tren de Agua, a transnational criminal organization from Venezuela, and MS-13. Suspend refugee resettlement and asylum and close the border to those without legal status via proclamation. And birthright citizenship. Yeah, this one is definitely going to be an issue. But I think this is done to start the legal battle over birthright citizenship and to actually really hash it out in regards to whether or not this is a constitutional right, which I don't think that it is. Okay, I mean, I've went over this before in regards to how I think that the 14th Amendment has been misinterpreted when it comes to birthright citizenship, but it is something that they're going to fight it out in court, right? That's the whole point of that executive order. Enhanced vetting and screening. The official said they're going to enhance vetting and screening of illegal aliens. Protect American citizens against invasion. Officials said this equips agents and officers of ICE and CBP with the authorities they need to deport people from the U.S. AKA, we're going to look the other way if you just, started sending people back, right? They come to the border and you just preemptively say, nah, you gotta leave, right? We're sending you back. It's not going to be a big deal because under the Biden administration, they would come to the border and they would be allowed in. And then eventually, they'd be able to just go wherever they wanted to go. Okay. And restore the death penalty. Okay. I think that one is self-explanatory. But again, the whole purpose is to send a message that, hey, we're not playing. We're not playing about coming over here illegally. Don't think that you're just going to get in, right? And that all that sobbing is going to help you. It's not going to help you. And if you come over here and you do get in, and you commit a crime, yes, there's going to be severe and harsh punishments, okay? Yeah, so again, Trump is sending a message. We're not playing around with the illegal immigrants. We're not. So with that being said, I want to play this clip so we can learn a little bit more about some of the policies that Trump is looking to implement at the border.
We heard him talk about a national emergency on the southern border. He's going to declare that here on day one. I want to go to Maria Villarreal. She's in Texas. She covers, obviously, the issue of immigration and the southern border for us. And Maria, they were expecting this, authorities in the border states, that Donald Trump would act and act quickly. And they've now heard it in the inaugural address. They now await the signing with the pen a little later this afternoon to put some of these words into action. Exactly what that action looks like remains to be seen. And as John Carl just pointed out, whether or not we'll see any sort of beginning to mass deportations still remains up in the air, though he's given every indication, President Trump, that he intends to act and quickly here.
David, I think Mary Bruce probably put it best a little earlier, right? She said we heard the inaugural address and then we heard a second address. And I think that's when we really got a good sense of what Trump is really focused on, what's important to him, where he feels most comfortable. We've been talking about this all throughout the election, right? For me, though, this gave us a lot more perspective on what we can expect at the border. And I think that's what a lot of people, a lot of contacts and sources down here have been waiting for. There have been a lot of rumblings for weeks about what could potentially happen. I mean, obviously, he talked today about bringing back Remain in Mexico. We've also heard a lot of conversations around Title 42. And when you talk about those two policies coming back, David, I think it's a real concern, not just for the people that are going to have to respond to the issues that are going to happen along the border, but really what is going to be happening in Mexico. There are shelters right now that don't have a lot of migrants, don't have a lot of families, but their bigger concern is like if you implement a Remain in Mexico, I mean, basically that in Title 42 allows people to just allows our federal government to push migrants back into Mexico to wait for their asylum cases to be heard, that will instantly create issues in these shelters. And then that's when we will also see the potential for a lot of those camps where, people are waiting along the border in awful conditions to try and get heard. I mean,
that's not our problem. That's not our issue. That's Mexico's issue, right? That's Mexico's issue. Maybe this will motivate them to not allow them to cross their southern border, right? If Mexico did not allow them to cross their southern border, then they don't have to deal with the problem at their northern border, right? You see how that works? You see how simple it is? It's called incentive structure, right? If you make the illegals remain in Mexico, which we can because we are the most powerful country, right? We are more powerful than them. So yes, we can actually make them remain in Mexico. And if it's Mexico's problem to deal with, then they will be incentivized to not allow them into the country at all, right? To secure their southern border, okay? And that's the whole point, okay? It doesn't matter how mad Sheinbaum gets, right? The president of Mexico, that's our last name, Sheinbaum, right? Again, I'm wondering what happened to machismo, okay? What happened to all that, right? What happened with my Mexicanos, right? What's up with that? But anyways, the Chihuahua can bark, but the Chihuahua ain't got no bite, right? So who cares how she feels about it? Who cares if it creates problems for her? Again, there's a solution. Secure your southern border and you ain't got to worry about it, right? It's really that simple.
This caused some major issues and major tension between the U.S. and Mexico when these two policies were both in place during the first Trump administration and then, sweeping into the Biden administration as well.
Any indication from authorities there on the ground as to how far they think the Trump administration will go in these early days? You talk about Title 42, of course, was used during COVID. It was actually used in the early days of the Biden administration until the courts caught up with them. But there's been a lot of talk about whether or not that can be brought back in light of other concerns that are now on the radar.
And I think that is why it's so important for us to pay attention to the verbiage, the wording of how these executive orders will come out. Obviously, this is a very smart Trump administration that has been planning, what they're going to do along the border for not just a few months, but really the last year or so. How can they get around the court systems that have already said remain in Mexico cannot be used any longer by the Biden administration? So in order to bring it back, they've got to write that policy a little bit differently. So we got to pay attention to that. Also, Title 42. The reason why we heard the president come in and say, listen, this is a national emergency along our southern border is that gives him a lot of freedom to then use things like our military, the Department of Defense, bringing troops down here, not just the National Guard anymore. So I think we're going to see him use those avenues and then also the help of Title 42. Again, we've heard a lot of rumblings along the border, a lot of sources and contacts saying we do believe Title 42 is going to come back. This is something that local law enforcement, but more specifically Customs and Border Patrol, these agents can use instantly. It is plug and play for them, David, because they've already had Title 42 in place. They had 4 to 5 years of being able to use that particular policy. So for them, they're ready to go. It's just a matter of what comes out in those executive orders as to exactly, what situations will call for those policies.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. I'm loving it, guys. I'm loving it. There's nothing in those executive orders where I'm like, oh, I disagree with that. No. I was like, no, I agree with all that. Everything that Trump did, I agree with. It is necessary, especially the military part, because I want to see our military actually defend our borders for once, right? Like, that's all I want to see. It's been a long time since our military has actually defended our borders, okay? We've been defending other people's borders, not ours. And it's just too much of that, okay? And also, using the military should make it cheaper, okay? Should make it cheaper as well, too. Instead of having to hire more Border Patrol agents, which they probably will end up doing anyways, right? Maybe you need to free them up to actually, deport the illegals that are here, that are already in the country, right? So you need to free them up, okay? So you use the military and have them defend the border, right? So, again, I'm loving it, okay? I'm loving it. And you have Pete Hegseth running the Department of Defense, and he's going to do it, right? He's going to allow it. See, that's why you need people that are loyal to the agenda, right? That are going to put America first. This is why you need them in power for stuff like this, okay? Because we know that Democrats are going to challenge it in court. They're going to try to push back against it. And you need people that have the cojones to not fold to Democrats and to, again, commit to getting the mission accomplished, right? Which is to secure the border and to use every resource that we have. Obviously, you want to do it constitutionally and legally. A lot of this stuff is a legal gray area, right? And while it's a gray area, you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of it. What you can do, okay, just in case the courts try to stop you, in which, again, we do have conservative-friendly courts. So they're probably going to be fine, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day. But, yeah, you need people that are going to be committed to getting the job done because Democrats, I think they're going to try to push back against a lot of this stuff, especially as the tears get flowing, right? The progressives are going to stand up, and we're going to see if the Democrats are going to capitulate. If they were smart, they would support everything that Trump is doing and stand behind it, right, and support it. But I don't think the Democrats are that smart. I think that they're going to fall for the Trump derangement trap, and they're going to be boohoo, whining, crying, and trying to make people feel bad about what they voted for. I think it's going to backfire. I really do. So we'll see. But, hey, law and order is back in the country, okay? The borders are now closed. I'm sorry, right? And this is exactly what I wanted to see. This is exactly what I wanted to see on day one. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.